Blue Beetle issue 7, Josh Trujillo and Adrian Gutierrez on the art. Matt,
Yeah.
you're reading this, so take it away.
Yes. Are you guys ready for some timey-wimey fun? Because we get not only do we get Jaime Blue Beetle, but we get Booster Gold in this issue. So yeah, in the last issue after the fight with the Blood Scarab, Jaime disappeared and they were reading Tachyon particles. And he ends up after he opens his eyes, and he's standing in front of Booster Gold. And Booster and Skeets are like, hey, we pulled you out of time because we need your help at finding Ted. And that Ted is from his fight with the Scarab. He had tried to, when he was recovering, he couldn't stop working. He ended up experimenting with one of the time spheres. It ended up sending him across time and space, except that because of it, he's pulled into the time stream. He's kind of in three spots at once. So what Booster needs Jaime to do is to go to these different spots through time and set these anchor points. And once they get those set through Skeets, they can, triangulate and find where exactly Ted is. So Jaime's trying to tell Booster that, I'm willing to help, but I don't think time's kind of my bag. That's yours. And Booster just is like, oh, you got the Scarab. You're fine. Like, it's magic or technology or whatever. So the first place that they end up sending him is to the old Justice League International days. And so the art's not just Gutierrez. He does the main stuff with Booster and Jaime. But we end up also getting Nacho Bustos, Howard Porter, Coley Hamner, and Scott Collins.
It's quite a few.
So I believe this is the Coley Hamner stuff because it's got the heavier lines.
They've
but
all
it
done
definitely
Blue Beetle stuff in the past, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
So unless he did you know what though, Hamner might have done the Blue Beetle era stuff because we'll get to there. So this might be Bustos, but they're very similar in their styling with the clean lines, very of that Kevin Maguire Justice League International style. And so Jaime ends up back in the past. And it's funny we were talking about Black Canary's suits because here she's in that kind of judo-y one, right? Like in between the fishnet looks, which I thought is funny. But as he shows up, she's quitting the team because, she's tired of all the silliness of that era. And as Jaime walks into the Justice League International embassy, ambush bugs spying on him and asking, should we proceed? And he gets a voice in his ear that says, no, let me know where he leaves. We need him alone. In the embassy, he ends up running into Maxwell Lord, who, he knows as the, evil telepath. And Max ends up thinking he's just an autograph hound. And he ends up kind of getting around him by kind of ignoring him because Max isn't used to that. And he tells him thanks for all the tips. He doesn't want to bother him. And he ends up setting the time point. So the next place they go is the future of a Legion. So he's in the far, far future. And someone ends up recognizing him as one of the Reach Beetles, except the Reach have been defeated like millennia ago. So they start to ask questions, and that's when another voice starts spying on him, and it turns out to be Nort. And so now I start thinking, so who's using this like Legion of Substitute Heroes to follow Jaime through time? The last place he ends up going is El Paso, where he runs into his mom. And Kaji Da had ended up, this wasn't supposed to be the third anchor point, but because it's important to Jaime, and by that extent to his relationship with Ted, thinks like this will be the most solid place to set one to end up finding Ted. And his mom ends up seeing him in the full Beetle suit and was like, shouldn't he be inside? Like, this is weird. And he ends up having a heart-to-heart with her and talking about how much, he misses this time period. Everything was a lot more simple, right? He's not in Palmyra City. He's back home. And as he's having this really nice, heart to heart with his mom about being himself and everything, there's another character who I'm not familiar with called the Heckler, also spying, talking to the same voice. So as he sets the anchor point, Lobo ends up jumping into the time stream, sideswiping him and Booster, and ends up taking Jaime to Johnny DC, who I'm not that familiar with, but I remember from being like in the back matter of old DC books. Like when I say old, I'm talking about like mid 2000s. And
Matt, that sounds as if Johnny Gargano started writing DC comics.
Yeah, but it's this red-haired, freckled-faced lady that's made out of the old DC logo. The old, not quite the bullet font, but the in between. So in between when they went from the New 52 and they had the kind of peely sticker ones, it was the blue block logo before that. That's what her body's made out of. It's very weird. Was not expecting this in a book where he was fighting different scarabs just an issue before. But Johnny DC ended up assembling Lobo and all of these kind of C and D list heroes to intercept Jaime, because him jumping through time like this and him just existing in the state that he is now is upsetting continuity, because he doesn't have a solid origin. And she's like, well, you're kind of an aberration, because is the scarab magic? Is it technology? What is going on? And she gives him a citation that says a convoluted origin. And so Jaime's just like, well, I don't know what I am, because Dan was magic, but Ted was science. I'm trying to honor them both. And so, Johnny DC gives him an unapproving look and tells him, like, just keep the retcons at a minimum. Like, just be yourself. Go out there and do what you need to do. And she sends him away. So he ends up back. Ted ends up meeting back up with Booster. He ends up being, fully healed from the state he was in from the Blood Scarab. And then he leaves to go off and do adventures with Booster, leaving Jaime very disappointed because he needs his mentor. So as Ted leaves, Jaime's looking super sad. And then it cuts back to Palmyra City in the present, and they're in Jenny Cord's office. Not Jenny Cord, Victoria Cord. Jenny Cord's from the movie. But Ted's sister. And she's talking to Natita, who decides that she wants to give the Green Beetle up. She doesn't want to be part of it. She doesn't want to be part of the Reach. She's tired of all this. Seeing Blood Scarab and what that was all about has kind of given her, like, she wants to go back to Bloodhaven on her they call it a Lex Talk channel, so I'm guessing it's a combination YouTube, TikTok type thing, and wants to go back to her old life. And so Victoria's like, well, we can do this, and we'll figure that out. And that's where the issue ends. So a very, very weird issue. I'm all for timey-wimey stuff. I love Booster. I love the Blue Beetle. I love them all together. The whole continuity meta type of story, I don't think that fits this version, right? Like, if that was Ted and Booster, I could fully buy it, right? But with Jaime, it's been so clear about how he wants to be that kind of combination of them. And, like, it's, it can be magic, but it can be science. He's just trying to survive. I don't know, just where that left that spot with the keep the retcons at a minimum. Like, I get what the writer's going for, but it was very messily executed. So the different art sequences, a lot of fun. Like, if you're gonna bring in multiple artists, you put them at different eras and stuff. That was handled very well, and it was almost like a time capsule to the Blue Beetle character. So yeah, kind of a bit of a mess. So I will give this a 6.5.